Welcome back to 312, the HRP Podcast. If you listened to us before, you know that each episode of 312 is divided into two sections. The work hard section, which is all business, where we talk about what we're doing, services we provide, and the clients that we work with. Naturally, after work hard comes play hard, a video section of the podcast, which you can see on our YouTube channel. In this episode of 312, we are talking about PFAS. Yes, if you listen to our content, you probably know that we have another podcast called P3. Did you also know that we have a subscription service called the PFAS Pulse, an aggregator of all things related to PFAS? Well, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about that service. Our first guest today, Tom Darby.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Darby. I'm the environmental practice leader here at HRP.
And Tom and I will be talking about the PFAS Pulse, telling you what it is and some of the more important or significant pieces that have been put on there so that you can know if this is a service that you want to get involved with. Spoiler alert, it definitely is. All right, so Mr. Darby, what do you have for us? Can you start us off by just explaining what the Pulse is?
The Pulse, the best way to describe it, I think you already mentioned it, it's an aggregator of all things PFAS. So when you go into the Pulse page, it's divided into several different sections. First, you'll see the headlines, and the headlines are where we post anything news related that comes out. So whether it's a new regulation that gets posted, something that EPA releases, new data that comes out, research articles related to remediation technology, that all gets put on the headlines. As you dig into the different buckets or the different sections in the Pulse, you can look at regulations by state. So as we come up with a new regulation, so say Connecticut releases a regulation on PFAS or something they're going to do specific to that state, you can click on the actual icon of the state and go into anything that's Connecticut specific, anything that's South Carolina specific. So it tries to organize the data to make it navigable to what's appropriate for you. So the other buckets that are on the Pulse, we get into, categorizing anything litigation related or research related. There's a lot of content on here as new remedial technologies come out. We're posting to those articles so people can easily navigate and find the information on that. So there's also an archive section. So as new stuff becomes available, we don't take the old stuff down. We add it to the archive, and you can go back and look at PFAS articles back to the start of the Pulse back in 2019.
Yeah.
Some of those are probably well outdated.
I guarantee they are.
If you read them now, you'd be like, I don't know what they were talking about. But
yeah, that was a big topic of conversation too when we first launched. And is, do we want to keep everything up there as like a record? Or because then we run into issues of like, well, we know this stuff is going to be outdated at some point. We know that with an emerging contaminant that's now just fully a contaminant, we know that with changing regulations that information that's up here is going to be out of date at some point. So we move that stuff into the archive. We keep the latest stuff up front for you, but we also want you to have that resource with the Pulse to go back and see what was what back when we first started putting that stuff up there.
It's pretty fun to look back through the archives and just see the headlines and how they've evolved over time. Like what was important back in 2019, mm-hmm. what was getting released versus, into 2020, late 2022, 2023, where we're really getting into a lot of regulation, a lot of, the big one that's been lurking out there is the hazardous designation, the hazardous mm-hmm. waste designation, the CERCLA from EPA. That's kind of, those kind of articles have more dominated the headlines in the recent year. Yeah. So when we look back at just the other day, there was a new Federal Registry post from EPA for the TSCA reporting and record keeping requirements. And again, if you're subscribed to the Pulse, there's an email blast that came out. So when that article came out, we posted it on the Pulse, and you get a breaking news type notification. So you don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to run onto it. It hits your inbox, and you're able to stay informed quickly.
Yeah. It's why a service like the Pulse is so valuable, because not everyone is going to be as diligent. Certainly not Google with telling you what is and isn't out of date information. You need a service like the Pulse. You need experts like we have at HRP.
And then the Pulse also has other, I'm going to say more static type documents that have been put together that are, related to, here's a guide to PFAS terminology. I mean, in our experience, we've talked to clients and we live this stuff every day. So our knowledge is at a level where we can say, what's the difference? We know what's the difference between PFOA and PFOS, or when someone says PFAS. We've talked to people that obviously aren't on the same level, and we take that for granted sometimes. So we've taken a step back. We have a document, PFAS, a basic review. What is PFAS? Where do you find it? What industries should be concerned? So there's some helpful resources in that respect to educate you if you don't know a lot of the terminology, or why is PFAS a problem, what industries should be concerned about it. There's also some different fact sheets that have been put together. There's one on metal plating, and there's one on AFFF. So a lot of the common stuff that people that work with PFAS or work in the environmental field are well aware of. It just gives you a way to get up to speed pretty quickly.
And a lot of those articles, Tom, then roll into podcast episodes on our P3 platform.
The podcast platform gives us an opportunity to respond to and provide additional input beyond the article. A lot of what it means. We're not the experts in everything, so a lot of our podcast content, we get remediation vendors. We get some of the laboratory experts to come on and talk about it. We've had ones with lawyers. One of the upcoming P3s that will get released is on EPA method 1633, and it's a laboratory method. So who better to talk about it than someone from a lab? So we'll have Stephen Somerville with PACE on that podcast talking about the method and what it means, and how it's different than what we've been doing, why it's better. So I think there's a lot of value to having the documents, but then also the addition of the podcast to be able to kind of react to some of this stuff and put it in context. There's also a section on the Pulse that has some archived webinars. So again, more content. A lot of this stuff is geared towards the pre-regulation era. So what you need to be prepared for, what you need to look for, what industries it affects. And a lot of stuff is going to change once the regulations go into effect and it gets the hazardous designation or the CERCLA designation as a hazardous substance. That's really going to affect all areas of what we do. But we'll continue to update this, and the Pulse will continue to evolve as the regulations do.
And what are some of the more significant articles or areas that we've covered on the Pulse? Individual ones that stand out as like, no, this was really good that we got this out when we did.
The one that resonates with me, and I mentioned, talking about the podcast, I mentioned the one with Stephen Somerville. We've actually done two with him. It's going to be an update to 1633 now that Draft Method 4 has been released. The original one that we did with him that really went into the different analytical methods. We had a lot of response from that podcast from, clients and industry of that was really great. It simplified. Here are the methods we've been using. Here's how this one's different. number of parameters and different key elements of the method. So that's one that always stands out to me. I've sent that to a number of people, and the responses have been, "This is great. This helps me understand what's there." My colleague Jackie Baxley, the EH&S practice leader, has done several on the TSCA regulations, and that affects a lot of our clients. And there's a lot of questions on the reporting and what some of the EPCRA reporting requirements are and how it changes with PFAS. So those have been really good podcasts. And all these are backed by different articles that get posted. So I think you can go in and read about it, or you can listen to a podcast of someone explaining it. The other one that really stands out, I think, we had a lawyer come on and talk about, environmental liabilities related to due diligence. I mean, that's a big part of what we do. And, to have somebody come on and provide that legal perspective to help our clients navigate, due diligence and what it means if they're trying to sell a property, what they need to look for if they're buying a property. We've had several recent examples of due diligence that the landscape's definitely changed because of PFAS, where we had documented release from fires where they used foam, and that being able to inform a client really helps them avoid liability. So one of the other things I think that's memorable on here, Tom, or that stands out, under the resources, like I mentioned earlier, we have the PFAS basic review and the guide to understanding the terminology. I'm going to call it the gray areas right now with PFAS is PFAS and air. Yeah. There hasn't been a lot published about it. The analytical methods are a little suspect, but there's more and more coming out of it. And our air expert, Allison Teropoulos, wrote up a blog article, PFAS and air, what do we know? So it was kind of a culmination of the current state of the science, the lab methods, the regulation, and took that information and summarized it into something that's it's a quick read, but it gets the salient points across and provides a good resource. So I think that's what we do. We're able to take all this information and boil it down and get you really what is important.
And folks, just to give you an idea of what we're posting out here on the Pulse, let's just look at the 10 most recent headlines. Tom, what do we have there?
So I already mentioned the most recent one about the new TSCA reporting requirements. We also have the UCMR data summary that was posted that provides the drinking water results across the country, revisions to the air emission reporting requirements, the draft method 1633, an article on nearly half of the tap water in the U.S. is contaminated, and that's related to the UCMR results. So that's providing some of the kind of the public feedback. Yeah. You can see what information is getting posted out there beyond what's coming from EPA. The news article on the national drinking water standards proposed by the current administration, revisions to the ASTM standard that added PFAS in, to the due diligence standard, plans for water regulations, and studies. So information on water supply, water treatment, some information on product packaging and, PFAS in product packaging and in products themselves. Information on toxicology or biota studies of looking at PFAS levels in fish, links to the new PFAS analytics tool on EPA. So, I mean, it's a wide range of stuff. It's not going to be applicable. Every link is not going to be applicable to everybody, but it covers a pretty wide range of topics and tries to really cover the span of PFAS.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tom, thank you for telling us about the Pulse today.
Thanks for having me, and definitely subscribe. There's a lot of good information, and reach out. We'd love your feedback.
Yeah. Head over to hrpassociates.com/PFAS to subscribe today. And with that, we're going to head over to Matt Wallace to talk about P3. All right, folks, we're back, and this time with Matt Wallace, who co-hosts the PFAS Pulse Podcast, better known as P3, with me. Matt?
That's right, I'm here. We're looking back at our previous episodes, isn't that right?
That is right. Now, the PFAS Pulse Podcast is the companion podcast to our subscription service, which we talked about with Tom Darby just moments ago for you listeners. But on the podcast, we like to take a little bit more informal tone, talk about things from an overview perspective, but then also at other times get in depth with interviews or specific topics. It allows us to have a greater flexibility with the medium and the format so that we can get that vital PFAS information out to you faster.
So this is going to be more of a nostalgia episode, I guess. Some of these was before my time, but I have heard most of them just before I started co-hosting. I started listening to all the old ones to know what I was getting into.
Mm-hmm. We want to talk about some of the more interesting ones or highlight some of the top ones. So I'm going to just list through all of the ones that we did. And Matt will jump in when he has some commentary.
With my quips, I guess.
Yes. All right. Going all the way back to September 28th, 2021. Our very first actual episode, EPA's first validated laboratory method. EPA's preliminary effluent guidelines program plan.
See, I like the idea of what we're doing right now because we're almost creating a timeline of important PFAS news throughout. This could almost be like a documentary of the last 3 years of PFAS regulation as it's progressed. Because what you're telling me is like kind of the origin of, I guess that's why we started the PFAS podcast. I wasn't around for that, but when I hear something like the EPA putting out their first method, that's very important news for our clients to listen to know about. So it is worth creating a podcast to kind of like keep up with that idea. Mm-hmm. And I think that is probably going to come up several times. And because I've done a couple of those also as the EPA's updated the methods. And is that 1633 yet, or is that's just kind
not
of
into 1633?
I don't think that idea had existed yet. Yeah,
I don't think so. Next up, we had PFAS and water resources. Then in October 2021, we've got EPA's PFAS strategic roadmap. Entering 2022, we have cracking down on PFAS, why metal finishers need to be prepared.
Yeah, the metal finishers, we do it's like a TED Talk, basically, where we cover some aspect of PFAS regulation. And I think that was actually the second one we did, but it was probably the first one to be covered on the podcast because the podcast didn't exist in the one we did before that. Mm-hmm. And then I did the one after that, I think, when you're going to get to 2023s or maybe it was late 2022. I can't remember.
Well, we'll get there. Next up, we had EPA's regulatory timelines. Then we had an episode rounding up the headlines with Sean Malin. Then we had the TRI talk, where we talked about TRI reports and the possible changes on the horizon as they're related to PFAS.
Yeah, that one was a big deal. That's something that I currently do just at HRP, is that when it's TRA filing time, I'm scouring SDSs and things for some of our clients and calling suppliers and saying, hey, do you have this PFAS in this? Because, they might submit an SDS from 2017 or something. And if it's before August 2020, then that means that they didn't have to include PFAS in there. Mm-hmm. So I'm off calling. And that's all because of this rule, basically, that this one. So when was that?
That one was in May.
May 20. Okay.
May 23, 2022.
That would make sense because TRI filing is around there. That's TRIs, I think, are due June 1st or something. So that's very soon. I don't remember it being that chaotic. Maybe it didn't actually come into effect until after that or something.
Next up, we had a case study, More Than Meets the Eye, with meat spelled MEATS, as we were getting some test results for meat that we'd sent out, grocery store meat, to see what the PFAS levels in it would be. We did a breaking news episode after that about EPA's announcement surrounding new drinking water health advisories. Next up, we had NIPD's guidance with Jason Davis, who talked to us about the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System's guidance updates for PFAS discharges. After that, we had PFAS analytical testing with PACE. That is the first one we did with the DM1633
Yep,
method.
I was going to say, there's your 1633.
Mm-hmm. After that, we had EPA's announcement, PFAS levels in drinking water.
That actually, I think that's the one that I was. Yeah, I got confused.
In this episode, host Tom Simmons is joined by project consultant Matt Wallace.
There's where I
to
started.
discuss the EPA's recent announcement on PFAS levels in drinking water. Then we revisited the TRI topic, some insights into the new reporting year. We revisited the PFAS roadmap 1 year later. We followed that up with PFAS and CERCLA with our guest attorney Rita Bolt-Barker, who talked to us about the implications, massive implications of the addition of PFAS to CERCLA as a hazardous substance.
Yeah, that was a big deal. The CERCLA hazardous substance is one of those reportable chemicals that a lot of our clients do every year, you know, so it's just one additional thing to keep track of, and something that expands every year as more PFAS will get added. And it hasn't been as chaotic as I thought it would be. Maybe it hasn't been long enough for people to realize that it's a thing yet.
No, maybe. Next up, we had PFAS Technologies with the 2022 B-Cone Roundtable panelists, and we ended 2022 with 3M to end PFAS production.
That's, they started it all, didn't they? 3M
yeah, them and DuPont.
Yeah, 3M and DuPont are and we never covered, I think, in that same time period, because it seemed a little too clickbaity at the time, I think, to cover the DuPont. There was a DuPont lawsuit that was happening in that period as well, where DuPont got sued for some amount of money for, I don't think it was for lying about it. I'm not confident enough to
they wouldn't lie
on a podcast. Yeah, right. Why would they?
No. We kicked off 2023 with UV destruction in 45 minutes. We wanted to talk about whether or not UV treatment can really destroy 95% of PFAS chemicals in 45 minutes. Matt, do you remember what our conclusions were from that?
That was I liked the term that was used in that article a lot, decapitation.
Yeah.
Of the, which is very, it's very on brand for science journalism to add these terms that just make it sound cooler than it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think we came to the conclusion that it did indeed work, and it was kind of a niche scenario and expensive to actually do that to PFAS.
Yep, sounds right.
When we brought Krista Ramirez on, she commented on that, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Hold on. We got ways to go here. We got to talk about State of the Science with Paul Newman of ECT2. Not that Paul Newman, but a Paul Newman. We followed that up with first ever national standard for PFAS in drinking water proposed.
That was when the EPA dropped the parts per quadrillion number for the first time. That I'd never seen that as even a metric before, where it was the drinking for tap water plants, the amount of PFAS that they were required to detect. And I actually don't think it was just an advisory, so I don't think it was actually like a rule yet, and I think it's still not a rule. But the number was in parts per quadrillion, and so I'm used to a million. A quadrillion's a million, you know?
Personal favorite for you, I'm sure, Matt, what to do when you test positive for PFAS.
That's right. That's the one that I did for the New England metal finishers, and then we kind of turned that into a podcast after the fact, which was kind of a simple breakdown of if you're just a Joe Smo working at a factory and you're required to test for PFAS, and you see that you're over limit, what you should do after that. I liked that episode because it dumbed it down enough for me to understand myself.
Yeah.
You know?
That's how I knew you were meant to be a co-host
here.
That
was my gauntlet.
we started getting into our state-specific updates. We had our first one for PFAS in Connecticut. Then we had our South Carolina PFAS-specific update. We revisited the NIPTES topic for an update there.
That's right.
So, Matt, as you, of course, remember well, a moment with NIPTES.
That's right. The NIPTES permitting changes, the fact that in the near future, or maybe even currently now, when POTWs and industries have to file their NIPTES applications for wastewater permits, they have to cover their PFAS constituents to kind of list what will be submitted into nearby streams as a sense of, you got to think that some of these wastewater treatment plants will be submitting to streams, and then the water treatment plants that get your tap water take the same water in the future. And the PFAS, if there's no way to treat the PFAS for the water treatment plant, then that's going to be directly kind of something that the population's got to deal with,
Mm-hmm. Following up, we had our interview with Axine, where Krista Ramirez of Axine Water Technologies joined us to talk about PFAS.
I probably learned more from that one than in any of these, honestly. Krista was just a wealth of information, and in sections of industry that we've never dealt with, like HRP and the pharmaceutical industry. I don't think we have any pharmaceutical clients.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. I shouldn't
say
what
happens after the podcast comes out.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we learned a lot about pharmaceutical industry and how environmental regulation works there, and also the methods that they're using to eliminate PFAS from their systems over in Canada and the Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm. And our final episode, or I should say our most recent episode, was the state-specific update for New York, where we took a little bit of a different approach there. I had Reed Lewandowski, who works in our New York office, tell me some of the bigger projects and stories that he had working on PFAS sites.
And we got a few in the pipeline, too, that we haven't done yet also, right?
True, yes. We will have one coming out in the near future talking about firefighting foam with PFAS and how it factors into class action lawsuits. Will PFAS become the next mesothelioma late night infomercial? If you or a loved one was impacted by PFAS contamination, call this number now to join a class action lawsuit. What is that going to look like for us? We'll have our friends, our guests, attorneys come up to tell us what's going on there.
See, I love that idea for a podcast because I think that future is kind of inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
That if, and we have seen that a little bit already anyways.
Yeah.
There have been lawsuits. They haven't been, well, there have been lawsuits against like 3M, for example. We're in that age now, I guess, where suing for PFAS exposure is a kind of valid thing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have coming up what we just recorded moments ago, a interview with Jackie Baxley on updates to Tosca.
I liked that one a lot too. I learned to see, because that's fresh in my mind, because it was 30 minutes ago. Now that's my favorite. That's the best that's one, how I am.
Right there. Yeah, exactly. Right in front of mine. All right. Well, Matt, thanks for being here. We are going to shortly head over to Magnetic South, the brewery that is just a hallway away from our office, for the Play Hard section.
Yeah, great to have a little memory lane episode.
Everybody out there, make sure you check out some of those episodes. Be ready, because even better content is coming down the lane for PFAS. So if you are not already subscribed to the PFAS Pulse, go to hrpassociates.com/PFAS and subscribe today. A little robotic.
You got it out.
I got it. We got there. And make sure to subscribe to P3, the PFAS Pulse Podcast. Head over there and find it on all of your feeds for podcasts. All right. We'll see you on Play Hard. Okay. Welcome to the Play Hard section.
Censor that last part
of the podcast. Matthew's a foul mouth, as you can tell.
I'm not a foul mouth.
He's a hard soda drinking foul mouth.
When the camera's on, my language gets better.
Oh, just the worst. But we are here today with myself, Tom Simmons, and your content creator at HRP Associates. Matt.
Hello, this is Matthew Wallace. I'm a project consultant with HRP Associates Inc. Inc. The dot goes after the ink.
That's true. And our latest addition to the podcast family.
Julia. Hello. Julia Corradino, project consultant. I'm a geo.
A lot of hesitancy around your own name
Well,
there.
I was expecting you to say it because you said his name.
I said Matt, and then I let him take it from there.
I took it from
I
there.
just signaled to him that it was like it was time to talk.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
And
He's a natural performer, though. So.
Yeah, well, natural maybe. His
It's trained.
his
It's not just
deliberately
natural.
robotic delivery.
Exactly.
On his own name.
It is a shtick that I have a specific market, and the people who like it really just eat it up, and I
He's a
just
stickler.
hone in on that demographic.
And we are in the Greenville, South Carolina office. We're in the brewery section of the office, which is a hallway away from where we typically sit to do our work. Here's where we do our drinking. It is Magnetic South. Really excellent brewery down here. First time being here in this brewery?
Oh, no,
sipping on it?
I've come here a lot. I
Okay.
was coming over here before I was hired. Sean
that-
kind of used it
That's
as
the
like
old
a,
school HRP hiring method.
Yeah,
Who's
he kinda-
drinking nearby the office?
He kind of used it as like a way to get me to come over to the dark side.
I know. You were in here and like, yeah, I went to Clemson. It's like you're hired.
And
Done.
so the light side
You
of this.
can't talk about another
Why not? They know.
consultant.
Okay.
I'm going to bleep that.
There's just one black pause, and then it comes back on.
Foul mouth Matt just going at it again. Can't
We
believe
like. They do a
Can't
great
believe he
job
dropped
with
that.
E. coli work. They do a great
E.
job.
coli work.
Yeah, we always give our E. coli samples.
They do process E. coli.
Okay.
And they do a very good job. And the way that they submit their reports is easier to look at than any other lab.
Yeah, they just do a real
That's true.
crackerjack job there.
But we're better.
It's true. No, we don't. We're not better?
I used to work for them,
Okay.
so that's why I'm like, let's not
Be nice.
talk
Let me
about
not trash talk my
my-
former employer.
We're just making sure you can't work for them again.
Thank you. Thank you.
But this is all distraction from the really serious topic that we're here to talk about today, which is what is the best hat? What are inappropriate hats?
I have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hats.
Hat types.
These are styles of hat because
Yes.
I got into this. We were given pink ball caps today by Sean, our regional manager, and it got me thinking. Like, ball caps are pretty much the only hat you're allowed to wear. Also, beanies a little bit.
These days they put
Beanies
you
a
in
little bit.
jail if you're wearing something other than
If
a
you
ball
wear
cap.
pretty much anything else, a top hat. When was the last time you saw a man unironically wearing a top hat and it wasn't
You
just?
can wear a cowboy hat.
You can.
Not
can.
where I'm
If
from.
if you're a certain person, not where you're from.
You're a certain cowboy.
You are allowed to wear a cowboy
in
hat
the South.
if you are a specific kind of person. You are allowed to wear a newsy cap, I think, if you're
No.
a certain kind of person, but this is also disagreed with.
You're not allowed to wear that hat.
No newsies.
So ball cap, we'll start out easy. Out of 10,
Well, before
What
we
would
even
you
get
give
into
it?
that, let's just mention that this was a topic that came up that was discussed prior
We were already
to
talking
filming.
about this.
Yes. So if you work at HRP, this is what your day will be filled with: is discussions of what is the best
let's go over the rules to
ball
this.
cap here. Okay,
Also,
set it up for us.
so I'm going to ask everyone out of 10 what each hat style gets, and then we're going to add up. So the max you get would be 30 points if we all give Fedora a 10 out of 10. Would be a total of 30 points, and it would be the winner.
There's
so
arcade
we
games in here,
want
by
to
the
be
way.
kind
I do
of
that in my
cruel.
nightmares.
Yeah, we are in a half casino arcade.
it
so
never
not
stops
casino
too.
at all.
If you walk in here at 6 a.m. to get an early start on your day, it's going off.
It's still going.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got the basics of the rules down. Any
we want to be
caveats
mean.
there?
We want to be
Yeah.
kind of nothing should get a 10 except for maybe cowboy hat because I do think it is objectively the best
Okay.
hat.
I'll fight for some down there. I do want to get
I love
into
berets too. Also,
Yeah.
Is the Ray on there?
yeah,
Beret
berets
is
on there.
on there.
So the
What if you
hats in
don't?
question:
Okay, just continue.
ball cap, fedora, newsy, beanie, cowboy hat, beret, trapper hat, which is the Canadian kind of ear fluffy Russian style.
If you're cold.
I always imagine the communist like sickle and hammer on there in the middle. A deer stalker hat, which is Sherlock Jones, not Jones,
Sherlock Jones.
Sherlock What's his name? Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, that's his name. Sherlock Holmes hat. And then top hats.
I cannot picture that.
Yeah, you know his hat. Wait.
We went through this earlier with the other hats, by the way.
Okay. Yes, what started this was whether
he
or not
got
the
3 hats
newsies-
deep, and then he started
I didn't
like
know what a newsie.
a newsie.
She didn't know what a newsie was, and then
cap
apparently
was.
that's too cringy to wear in
Extremely
public.
cringy.
It's very cringy.
This is a deer stalker hat.
I think it's debatable if this
Okay,
should even be
also
on the
cringe.
list. I
Yeah.
think.
Not
No one wears
cringe.
that.
Yeah, no.
No
What
one
about
wears
a
it, but
cap?
it is awesome.
Okay, I have a question, but I'll save it till we go through all of the other hats. I have one other hat suggestion.
Get on that mic a little bit more. Let's make sure
Oh,
we
can
hear
you
it.
actually hear me?
Yeah, you can also raise it to your face. You don't have to bring your face to the mic.
This is more comfortable for me.
We
Okay.
can add
Whatever's
additional
good for you.
hats. Do you have?
No, but it's like a surprise hat at the end.
Ooh, bonus
Okay,
hat.
I like a bonus hat. All right, a bonus hat for the end.
Yeah.
A bonus hat.
So
Okay.
ball cap. Julia, out of 10, what do you rank ball cap?
Now,
The single
there
most
are
basic hat.
different types of ball caps, though.
True.
There's the kind that you guys are wearing, which has the mesh in the back.
Yep, and the hard.
And then I
style.
have a denim ball cap, which I would rank that 10 out of 10.
It hits
Yeah,
different.
Yeah.
It does hit different. And these ones are shaped different. There's also flat bill caps. We didn't specify any of this. So if I'm grouping all of those,
Just ball cap, just as a general style. And I do think what we're wearing is probably the most common.
I think
kind of
that
hat.
the denim hat brings it up to a 10, right? But the trucker hat brings it down. It depends on what's on the trucker hat, though. If it says something like catchy, you know,
That's true. Is that
it can have things on it.
ball caps are almost an advertising space.
Yeah,
More than any other
yeah.
hat for sure.
Or like, yeah, I mean, it
They
can say
take a
something
design
funny.
very well.
You
Yeah.
know, like
They're extremely capitalist friendly, which is probably why it's the most common
like
American
Squidbillies. Like, you ever watch Squidbillies?
hat.
Yes,
I have
yeah.
seen Squidbillies.
There's one that says, "I'm doing as best as I can." I mean, that's hilarious.
It's funny. It's really funny.
So that's a trucker hat. There's too many factors. I'll give it an 8. There's
8 out
too
of
many
10.
factors.
8
It can
out of
be
10.
they can be bad.
I'm gonna write J for Julia. Then I'm gonna write T for Tommy Sims. And I'm gonna write M for Matthew Wallace.
Okay.
Ball cap from Julia, 8 out of 10.
8.
Tommy Sims,
It's a 10 out of 10 for me.
10 out of 10
He
out
told us
of
to be
the gate.
harsh.
But here's the reason why it's so good.
Okay, all right.
It's impossible to wear it wrong. Any way in which you can think of to wear it
No,
has
it can be worn wrong.
subjectively, but
No.
that doesn't count as wearing it.
Okay, so if you like turn it around like you have it, but then put it off of your head and
Yeah.
tilt it, that's wrong.
But
People wear it that
somebody
way.
that's the thing.
People wear it that way.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking
It
about.
looks wrong. I will judge you.
But if I wore a cowboy hat backwards, I would look insane.
It is immediately wrong.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
fair.
There's
Good
no
point.
there's no subgroup of
Okay,
people.
okay, I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
Okay.
I take that and I counterpoint with a beret can't really be worn wrong. A newsie can't really be worn wrong. In the same way, I'm looking
A
at
newsie
these.
can be worn
Those
wrong.
might be the only ones that a top hat is just kind of a top hat.
A beanie
regardless,
can't be
right?
worn wrong.
I don't know if I've ever actually worn a top hat before, so I don't know if it can be worn wrong. But I feel like it's just a circle, right? So no
Sometimes
matter
there's
where
a
you-
buckle.
Yeah,
I
there's
feel like
a little
Abe
buckle.
Lincoln had like a
Aw,
buckle.
man, we should have put the pilgrim
Or
hat
like a
on there.
pilgrim.
I
That's
should have
a
put
top hat.
tricorn on here. That's not the bonus round hat, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's a
Tricorn.
surprise hat. We haven't talked about
We're
this
running
hat
out
yet.
of time, and we
Yeah.
got a lot of
Fair
hats
point.
to get
Fair
through.
point. Okay. So I'm going to give ball cap a 7 out of 10 because I think it does. I instinctually don't as a contrarian hipster boy.
Hipster boy.
I feel like I'm not allowed to like them because they are so popular, and but they just from like a factual level, they just work, right? Like they shield my face from the sun.
True.
Yeah.
They
Which
do
is
have
the
utility.
actual point
Yeah.
of a hat.
He's very much in shadow right now as a result of
Right,
his
I'm
hat.
wearing
You
this
You are
hat,
in
and I have to
shadow.
like kind of just like point it straight up,
can't
so I
even
don't
see it.
just
Like who's over there? Who's under that
cast
hat?
a pure dark cloud
It
over
does
myself.
change like how you look.
Yeah.
It changes. I mean, but in kind of
Well,
a
I
good
guess
way.
all hats.
It is an appealing hat.
Yeah.
So that's a 7, and it's more of a biased to -7 than anything. So far, I'm thinking that Tommy Sims is you're the Randy of the 3 judges here. You know, like in American Idol, Randy was always just down.
Yeah.
He liked everybody, even if they were garbage. he always had something
well,
nice to say.
well, it's funny you say that because Fedora is going to be a 1 out of 10 for me.
Okay,
I had to
Fedora.
I had to pull it back there because if you are like
One.
the
A
lead
one.
the lead in a smooth jazz combo,
Right.
then you can wear it. but
Julia,
it has
what do you-
no other appropriate uses.
What do you think about a
I
fedora?
think it actually does have a purpose. It makes people cringy.
There's an inherent
And
likability to how
my
cringy it
sense
is.
of humor is post-ironic,
Sure.
and therefore
Very
cringy.
Gen Z of you.
So sincere.
Yeah.
Right.
So cringy is enjoyment. So I'll give it a 5.
A 5. You know what? I actually think 5's a pretty good place for it because I would never wear one. But when I do see someone wearing it, I think you've skipped. I think we are beyond the phase where miladying people with a fedora was seen as extremely cringy, and I think it is now cute. And you know, I'm gonna give it a 6. I'm going above a 5.
Wow, look at this guy.
I cannot in good faith put fedora on the same number
I think
as
that
ball
if
cap.
someone miladied me, I would laugh in their face, but in a good way,
Yeah.
in a positive way.
Exactly.
We'd be having a good time together.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
fair enough.
Now, Newsy. This is where the real disagreement's going to come from because I think Newsy is a straight up 9 out of 10 hat. I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10.
The message of a newsie is I am going bald.
It really is,
There's
and I
no
am.
other way. If someone takes a newsie off and they got a full head of hair, it is a shocking revelation.
Extremely good point, and I feel like you have really attacked me with this statement because I love them, and my hairline is definitely receding, as you can see, especially after I've been wearing a hat a while. It really just becomes more obvious. In my receding hairline
Well,
era,
I think it also hats make you lose your hair.
I don't know if that's true.
I think it is.
I think it is true, but I think
it
it's
is
not
true.
by as much as people make it out to be.
Like you start losing your hair, and then you're like, oh, gotta wear a cap.
Okay.
Yep. And
And
then
then
it
you
suffocates your
yeah.
scalp.
We don't know for sure, so we're just going to fully
But
commit to
people
it being
lose.
true.
Okay. Well, never mind. Doesn't matter. That's not a detail. We
I've
need to
heard
talk
it enough
about.
times where I believe it, but if it were false, I would also
Well, think
believe
about.
that.
Okay, this is what I was gonna say. Think about old people who wear socks all the time. They lose their hair where they wear their socks.
Yeah, but
Okay.
they wear those socks. They're wearing them compression socks. That
Yeah,
are
but
like
that's
just-
also. But it's a thing that happens. You're wearing a compression sock on your head.
Well, I wear some tight socks. And
Have you lost your hair?
no, I have an excessive
it's
amount of cankle hair that is not going anywhere. No matter
It's a
how
thing
no
that
matter how tight
happens,
my
though.
socks.
It is a thing that happens.
Okay.
Factually.
All right.
So I'm giving Newsy 9 out of 10
Oh my god.
right off the bat. What
I'm
are you giving
giving-
Newsy?
I'm giving Newsy 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10 from Tommy Sims.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? That's okay.
It's too ubiquitous with a particular thing that people don't want to be associated with.
I'm gonna give it a 2.
2 out of 10. All right.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone wear
Slamming
one.
that Newsy.
Though, to be completely honest with you.
Newsy is still beating Fedora only because of my boost. But now Beanie.
Beanie is a
10 out
solid.
of
I'm going to give it an 8.
10 out of 10 or the beanie.
I'm going to get an 8 out of 10 only because it is a seasonal hat, unless you're
Yeah.
late 90s.
I can't wear this
Colin
thing in
Farrell.
the summer. I'm hot right now.
Not a summer hat at
No.
all,
Yeah.
and it provides it doesn't serve the purpose of a hat, which is to
No.
shield your face.
It serves a
from
purpose in that it keeps a lot
Yeah.
of warmth in your body
That is the real purpose.
when
of
you
it,
are
yeah.
cold.
Sure.
And it definitely does that.
That is, you know what? I'm treating.
Still keeping it 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I am biased towards the shade element of the hat, I think, and I do think the warming element of the hat is a. But
I think if I'm in
wear
the
a hood on
field
top of that.
in the winter, I'm wearing a beanie. I'm not wearing.
Fair.
Doing field work.
I think there are
Okay,
hats
I won't say
that
anything until we
do-
get to the lightning round.
There
I
are
have an
hats
inch- I have
that
an
do
entry
warming
now.
better. Though.
Another bonus hat.
So you could be a hat that warms ears and your head better than a beanie can, and then also shield from.
Yeah,
the
you
sun.
can. Those exist. Yeah. I used to have one of those.
Yeah.
I don't anymore because I traded it for
For
the-
that reason,
for
I
the
am going to
beanie.
be. I actually do like a beanie, so I'm not going to rate it. Too
Plus,
low,
they're
but-
cute.
So you're giving it a 10.
Yeah.
So 10, 8, and I'm going to give it a. So if I give it an 8 right now, it will win probably.
Well, we don't know.
You
we
can't judge like that. You
We're
gotta
nowhere near
be
top hat yet.
I'll be honest with myself and give it an 8, which is what I think it deserves.
to be impartial. Over
I do,
there.
yeah. I do feel a sense of I'm decided. I don't want to be the
We gotta move. We gotta move. What's next?
cowboy.
Cowboy hat.
10 out of
Cowboy
10.
hat.
10?
10 out of 10.
It's such a cool hat.
Love a
It is
cowboy hat.
Such a cool
I'm
hat.
gonna
And
give it.
whoever's wearing a cowboy hat is inherently very cool.
You can look goofy as hell in a cowboy
You can,
hat,
but
though,
then
which,
you
like
shouldn't
me.
be wearing one.
I
Yeah,
can't
that's why I
pull off a
don't.
cowboy hat, so I
10
don't
out
wear
of
a
10.
cowboy hat. But when you see somebody pulling off a cowboy
That's
hat,
what I'm saying. If you're pulling it off, you are cool.
I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 because
7
it
out of
is
10, okay.
so specific
It is
and so
very
hard to do.
specific, yeah. But the
I'm
people
gonna
that
give
do it,
you know what? I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
And the only reason why it doesn't get a 10 out of 10 is because I can't wear one.
Leave one for the Holy Ghost.
I don't think I could wear one either. Although I have.
When I do wear one,
Another hat.
oh,
We got a lot of lightning round hats.
yeah, we gotta keep this moving.
Now beret.
Beret.
0.
Zero.
Zero for beret.
I'll give it a 2 for the French people.
Yeah,
What about
your
military
Parisian vacation?
berets? And beret is a versatile hat, actually.
We should say that we've excluded hats that are specific to sacred or ethnic
Yes,
traditions.
we did.
Yes. No
This is
yarmulkes.
just about
Or
your
turbans.
your
turban
everyday hats that anybody can wear, which I think is we're going to exclude military headgear as
Okay,
well.
fair.
I think
fair.
we did
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
Well, beret is kind of military.
Well, you
yes.
specifically said, well, what about
what
army
about,
guys?
yeah, I'm thinking green beret specifically. But
Praise a 4 out of 10 for me.
so 2 out of 10, 4 out of 10. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I like a beret.
Look at you go.
But
I don't know many French people, you know.
trapper hats that they wear in Canada, and they really do be wearing those hats. That's not just
10.
Okay.
10 out of 10. Okay. Okay.
3.
They're very comfortable if you're
3
cold.
out of 10 for a trapper hat.
3.
They
Beanie's
are-
better in every situation.
No.
No, but
they
your
are-
ears.
They
It
are
warms your
extremely comfortable. They are way warmer than a beanie. Like they
10
are.
out of 10.
they
I think
are-
they're cool.
yeah.
I think they
You
look
should
cool.
just wear a hood at that.
I think the
look
people
cool.
that wear them look cool.
They look cool. They have really. I just associate them with Canada so much, you know. Like, but I realize like, just
Okay.
cold
Canadians
places,
are
they wear
cool.
them.
Yeah, they're cool.
I'm gonna give it a
Yes.
9 out of 10.
Wow. Okay.
Deer stalker hat, Sherlock Holmes, 10 out of 10.
0.
I didn't know his name, but I like his
This
hat.
is
so-
literally the only person who's ever worn that hat.
I'll give it a 7, and it's just because he's cool.
7, and then you say 0.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a 0.1 for the sake of having to put some rating.
Good. Yeah, you have fun
on
with the
board.
math on that. Top hat. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 for Old Honest Abe. I guess that's a stove type pot.
Top hat, you know what?
But
I'm
you
gonna
know
give it a 10 out of 10 to destroy this at last second and have Top
Julia,
hat
are you gonna
take
throw
the-
this thing?
What if I give it a 1?
It's you.
You
You
can't
do
now.
whatever you want to do.
I didn't choose one yet.
Okay.
Top hat. What do you got?
Top hat.
No, top hats are cool.
The least socially acceptable hat up the
But it's
list.
still cool, like
Yeah.
in the setting that it's allowed.
Yeah.
You know,
Would
like
anyone-
the Monopoly man.
Yeah. Would you? If someone walked in with a
8.
top hat, you'd be like the coolest guy
8.
in the room.
Top hat just took it.
Okay. Well, we got our lightning round hats. Real quick. But first lightning round hat.
Okay, the hat that's got the little
Oh, that one.
the little spinny thing.
Like the Will Smith Fresh Prince of Bel-Air 90s hat with multiple colors.
10 out of 10 on that.
Propeller hat?
Propeller hat.
Thank you.
Propeller
Thank
hat.
you. 10 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it 7 out of 10. I'm dinging it for safety reasons.
7. Safety
Valid.
reason's a good thing. It's so nostalgic that I feel like I have to give it a 9 out of 10, despite the fact that it is indeed a cap. The cap is what subtracts that extra 1 from me.
And my lightning round is the hard hat,
The hard hat.
which I will be giving
10 out
a-
of 10.
Wow, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 because you would
No.
literally never wear it other than
Yeah,
on.
but people in hard hats also look cool.
Well, if they're doing something, you
Yeah.
know. I guess it does make you look official.
I look
Yeah.
very lame in a hard hat, but I mean, I wear
and
them.
so cool at every other circumstance.
Yeah, right.
What do you give it
I'm
that
gonna
hard
give
hat?
it, I think I'm going to join you with a 6. My lightning round hat. Now I have to
I have another one.
think of.
Well,
okay,
we're gonna go
yeah.
back to Julia.
I'll let
come
you.
back to
Sombrero.
Oh,
Sombrero. I feel
Way
like we're
cool.
getting into
Way
ethnically
cool.
defined
This
hats
is
here.
different.
10 out of
Because-
10. So is a beret.
yeah. We're gonna give it a 10 out of 10, but we're going to specify that you have to be.
It has to, yeah.
You
It
have
has to be culturally
appropriate-
acceptable
yeah, belong to the
reason that
culture
you're wearing a
wears it.
sombrero.
This is not something that gets to be worn by.
No.
Yeah.
No.
By
Right.
me.
But they
by me.
are cool.
Yes.
10 out of 10.
And
out of 10 hat.
so I previously established my bias towards how well it protects you from the sun.
Uh-huh.
I mean, nothing compares to sombrero.
Right?
That's literally
Yeah.
what sombrero
Except
somberize and like shade.
the
makes.
fisherman's hat,
The fisherman's hats are pretty
which
good.
is
Fisherman hat,
a
yeah.
super utility-based hat, but looks dorky as hell.
Yeah,
and
they
would
do.
Never wear it.
They do.
So
But
for
I
that
do know
reason-
people that wear them in the field.
So what are you giving sombrero, by the way?
Sombrero's a 10 out of 10.
Sombrero
Fisherman's hat, I'm giving it 5 out of 10 because it's so dorky, but it's also such a useful hat.
I'll give it an 8. Because if you're like confident enough to wear something that makes you look dorky, you're no longer really dorky.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it an 8 because I like the "You ever looked into a shark's eyes" Jaws monologue, and I always imagine him in that hat. I don't remember if he actually was wearing it in that scene, but
Is this being released this month? Because I have
Next
one
week.
more hat.
Next week.
Okay. Next week?
Yeah.
Write it down.
Perfect. A witch's hat.
Nice.
oh my god, witch hat,
Witch hat.
We forgot it, and there's one right there
witch hat.
on top of those pumpkins.
Which could also honestly be a wizard hat. You still got some wizards wearing hats
Sure,
like that.
Yeah.
sure.
I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 only because it is a seasonal hat.
Another seasonal hat.
I think it's extremely anytime appropriate. I'm gonna give it a perfect 10 out of 10. Honestly,
I'm going to
I'd give it
challenge
an 11
you
out
to
of 10.
come
but-
in wearing a witch's hat at a random time of the year.
and people would think I was so cool if I did that.
Yeah. They'll think you're exactly as cool
I'll give it a
as they
9.
think you are now.
So witch's hat would come in second place.
What's our ranking?
Sombrero, perfect 30.
Yep.
Witch's hat, what is that? A 28.
Sombrero got perfect 30?
Beanie is probably the highest ranked. Beanie and top hat are both tied at 27. Cowboy hat right underneath at 26. And then I don't want to add up everything else. Everything else is less than that.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about those losers.
Yeah.
All
Everything
right.
else is just a loser.
Okay, well, that wraps it up. That is our hat discussion. Thank you so much for joining us here at Magnetic South. Great brewery in Greenville. Julia, thank you for being a part
Yes, of
of
course.
this broadcast.
Yes.
Matt
Had fun.
is also here. No, we love Matt. Matt, thank you for being here. But honestly, we couldn't do this without Matt, and I'm so glad that we got to do an in-person recording for once
It's way more fun like this.
because he's a huge benefit to what we do at HRP. I just want to say to everybody out there, Matt, thank you for everything that you do here.
You're welcome.
Okay, everybody, remember to 5 stars down there if you're watching on YouTube. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.